Welcome to part 2 on strength training misconceptions. This video will explore common themes that often have good intentions but aren't founded in truth. So starting with the basics, the idea that it's absolutely mandatory, 100% necessary to practice the competition movement to get better at it. I get it, specificity of training, bench more to get better at benching, but that's only one perspective. It neglects the fact that there are effective variations that are also specific, that also give you carryover, aka automatically make you strong as hell. And oftentimes, these variations do a better job at building strength, while minimizing overuse, correcting weaknesses, and allowing you to actually train heavier for longer periods of time, which I'll be talking about later. Here's the thing, guys. Even though it is optimal to train that which you want to get better at, it doesn't mean doing it 100% exactly to a T. That's what a lot of people fail to understand. It's already been proven that you can get strong at, say, the big three without even doing them. For example, if I can raise your deficit deadlift, chances are they'll do a great job at building your standard pull. If I can increase your close grip bench, say with a camber bar, increase range of motion, you'll probably see a rise in standard benching strength. Well, if I can add 50 pounds to your dead bench, you think that's not going to have carryover, make you stronger? You think if a guy who's never benched in his life but can do 5 plates on the way to dip and overhead press into 200s is going to have a weak bench? Do you honestly believe that? Do you think that if a guy only does front squats and he builds up to, say, 400, 500 pounds, that he's going to have a weak back squat just because he never trained for it? Let's be real here. Strength is strength. And if you perform powerful compound movements that just give you carryover in every possible way, then by that definition, you don't have to practice the competition movement to get better at it. What about raising your deadlift through doing lots of good mornings, lots of upper back work, lots of just posterior chain in general? We already know this to be true. It's a fact that you can acquire an elite deadlift without practicing the competition style. Then you have to factor in the training goals, whether or not someone even competes. Is that person a strength athlete? Does it have a higher injury risk to constantly do that same exercise over and over again? I'm not convinced that that's the way to go. See, I look at guys like Matt Winning who've been in the game for decades and still haven't been hurt, compared to the minimalist who just wants to be as specific as possible and constantly gets snapped up. You always see this on social media. Whereas those who run maximized systems, some do get hurt. That's always a possibility when you're a serious lifter, but the risk is minimized and they develop greater general strength. And in my opinion, more athletic as a whole. I think you also get faster gains because you're constantly preventing plateaus. You're constantly overriding the biological law of accommodation. So to me, maximized programming that's still specific, but you're doing exercises that are either harder or still give you carryover, is certainly the way to go. While using powerful accessory exercises that get you more jacked and correct weaknesses. Instead of, you know what? I want to get a bigger bench press, so that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to do anything else. I won't perform extensions. I won't do dumbbell bench. I won't do incline bench. I won't do overhead press. I won't do dips. I won't do shit all, but just a flat barbell bench press, competition style. That's all I'm going to do. Why, bro? You don't have to do that. Look at me. Look at my progression over the years. Rotating the variations every week, or at least on a very frequent basis. It's all about specificity. And that doesn't mean doing the exact competition movement 100% of the time. So again, good intentions, but it's a lie. So the second concept that you may have heard about is that partials don't work. Just do full range of motion 100% of the time. Again, a biased, dogmatic way of thinking that is factually incorrect. Let me give you an extreme example, even though people aren't going to train like this. Let's say I take a complete novice and I start him off with high handle trap bar deadlifts. You do 135. And over the years, through similar variations, I build him up to an 800-pound trap bar deadlift high handles. And then one day I say, okay, test your low handles, or test your conventional, or your sumo, or behind the back, or Jefferson. Test any variation done off the ground. Guess what? He's going to be an elite puller, guaranteed. Because it all depends the degree to which you're doing your partials. See, that's where guys get confused. If I take a rack pull above the knee, for example, no shit, that's not going to have carryover. But if you're staying within a reasonable range that does not increase the poundages that much compared to pulling from the ground, or just benching from the chest, for example, the carryover will be there provided that you get stronger over time. And it's also the fact that you're preventing overuse. You're throwing in a different variation there. And sometimes you correct your weaknesses and you find your groove. And some people forget that certain variations are harder. I believe there was a guy at the West Side Barbell Club who was a 900-pound puller. And when you put him on 1 to 2 inch blocks, he pulled 30 pounds less compared to the ground. Why? Because it turned more into a stiff-legged deadlift. slightly less leg drive. And then you have the opposite, where some individuals can pull more from a deficit, increase range of motion, but it's an easier variation. So for them, they benefit from doing a little bit of block pulls. And then you have to factor in the recovery aspect of things. Are you telling me you're going to pull from the ground every single time you go to the gym? Okay, you could. No problem. Go ahead. It works. But another strategy is to do high intensity with your pulls on the ground. So you do your singles from the floor, and then volume off blocks. Slight partials, which will allow you to get a lot of volume in without beating up the lower back. And actually overloading certain areas too and correcting weaknesses. So that's one way to view things. And again, it applies to many compound exercises, not just the big three, if you will. And on that note, I'd like to talk about maxing out, because a lot of people seem to think that it's dangerous and that you shouldn't do it frequently. Just use submaximal loads year round and do a phase where you're going heavy for a month. You don't have to train like that. Look into concurrent periodization. I've been talking about it for years because it fucking works. Where you have a volume day and intensity day, and this way you can actually lift heavy year round. And it doesn't have to be all out one rep maxes either. You can easily do 3 sets of 1 to 90%, or just weights above 90% in general. Like when I made that video about ego lifting, the max effort method is not included in that. It's only the case if you're going way past your 1 rep max and form breakdown is severe to the point you actually do get hurt. But doing 1 rep maxes on a weekly basis as a part of a smart exercise rotation, that's building strength. And I talked about this years ago, like the max effort method is the greatest method of all time for getting stronger. It's the most specific thing you could do for raising absolute strength. So this concept that you should only max out a few times a year because that's somehow testing strength, no, it isn't. Maxing out builds strength, especially if you're rotating specific variations. Remember point 1? Well, if I do week 1 close grip bench, week 2 bench press with bands, week 3 bench press with chains, and then week 4 maybe a slingshot bench press, and I raise my performance on all those movements, for one, I prevented overuse. I overrided the biological law of accommodation. I got carryover at the same time, and I got to lift heavy in the entire month. Doing singles, the most specific activity you can do towards raising your 1 rep max. And if you're a strength athlete or someone who wants to maximize strength development, it would be wise to do at least weights at 90% or more. If you don't want to do it, fine, that's your prerogative, but don't lie about the benefits. The next thing you're going to hear from dogmatic assholes on the internet is that it's all about the big three, nothing else matters. They neglect effective movements like the overhead press, the weighted pull-up, the weighted dip, weighted push-ups even. And all the effective accessories, all the amazing variations. No, all that is neglected because big three. That's what popular culture says. Now, I'll be the first to say that these are very effective exercises. Like, they're the real deal. They do test your strength. But as I point out at the beginning of this video, you don't actually have to do them to get better at them. You can find similar variations, which pretty much is the same fucking thing if you think about it. Like a close grip bench instead of a regular bench, for example. And then you do your volume work on top of it to raise your weak links. So doing some dumbbell press right after, followed by some tricep work, your upper back work. Posterior chain, you could do good mornings. Good mornings will raise the shit out of your deadlift. And then even doing your lateral exercise on the side, like Bulgarian split squats, standard lunges, belt squats. Actually, some would say the belt squat is superior to the back squat. And then what about the exercise where you're moving through space? Calisthenics. Or let's neglect weighted pull-ups because it's not part of big three. You know what I find embarrassing? When a guy has an amazing pull from the ground, but he struggles doing bodyweight pull-ups. Or just weighted. To me, that's pathetic. And it doesn't encompass full strength development. That's why I like general strength. So again, I'm not trying to knock the big three. In many ways, they are one of the best ways to test your strength. And most of you should probably do them. Year-round even. But it's not the only way. And this final thing that I hear guys say is that, oh, you can't get that strong. You're going to hit your natural limit, bro. You see, most lifters are nowhere near maximizing their potential because they haven't put in the work for years and years and years and years with proper programming. That's the reality. Like, I never thought in my life that I hit this strong of a bench. If you would have approached me as a teenager and said, you know, in the future, you're going to be doing these numbers, I would have looked like you were crazy. But over time, as I got smarter, as I really put in the work year after year after year, always grinding, never giving up, and becoming smarter, refining the programming, that's when I realized that naturals are capable of more. It's all about raising your standards up here because you could do it. Like, seriously, I think most lifters can easily achieve a 3-plate bench and a 5-plate deadlift. That's not unrealistic whatsoever. And that's just the baseline, if you ask me. I believe the standards could be even higher. Some would even call it delusional. You've seen me talk about standards before if you watch some of my older segments. Yeah, I stand by those numbers. They're pretty fucking accurate. I think a lot of you, if you actually put in the work, for real now, no making excuses, you can not only acquire an elite physique that looks absolutely amazing in every possible way, super freaking aesthetic, super jacked, just looking amazing in clothes, amazing with your shirt off, but you can also get so fucking strong that you can be competitive. So don't let these motherfuckers on the internet derail you from your true path, because you know that you could do it. We've seen it all over the place. Guys with average genetics getting brutally strong over time. It's not drugs. It's training your ass off for 5-10 years and getting smart, doing things right. So if you're willing to do that, a little bit of sacrifice, a little bit of obsession, I'll say you'll be stronger than 95% of people walking this planet. And your strength could be equivalent to many Reuters. Maybe not all of them. In fact, if some guy is outworking you and they put in the drugs and they have good genetics, okay, maybe they'll beat you. But who the fuck cares? Are you lifting to impress others or be the best version of you? So again, stop thinking about, this natural limit. Stop worrying about these goddamn calculators. Stop thinking about other men all the time. Look up to people for inspiration. Look at the old school strong men. Look at average guys who've made it to the top, who've acquired amazing physiques, and use that as a source of inspiration, but don't let it be the driving factor behind everything you do. So all I'm trying to say is that you want to raise your standards. Don't listen to the lies that guys tell you that you're going to be this weak motherfucker. No, you won't. You can be very jacked, very strong. So that said, guys, those are the top 5 strength training lies. Let me know what you feel should be added to this list. I want to see. Let's break it down. Let's explore. Let's dive into this even further. So see those comments, and I'll talk to you in the next video.